Good day, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Loving the Game. I'm Jacques, your host, and as you can see, my Twitter handle, Yellow Cap Sports. And today we've got a very special guest on World Cup hero, as most will know, none other than Stransky. Well, welcome to the show, and thanks for your time.
Jacques, pleasure, man. Lovely to be chatting, and nice to be on your show.
Yeah, it's a massive honor. Joel, let's just start off quickly by if you can just give us a quick, not background, but just something to tell us. What are you up to these days? Not specifically during lockdown, but just in general. You know, what does Joel Stransky do on a normal day?
Yeah, so obviously, I think everyone knows I still moonlight a little bit on SuperSport and commentate a bit and host the chat show on Thursday nights. But my real life, my real day job is I'm a shareholder in a business called Pivotal Capital. We sort of refer to ourselves now as the Pivotal Group. We have 9 companies in our stable now, and we're mainly a technology-based company. We started our first business as a company called OneVault, which plays in the voice biometric space, and from there, we met a lot of people in the call center industry, and we started helping build and manage call centers, and we're now really focused on the technology side. So we're a big Genesis partner, in fact, the biggest Genesis partner in Africa. We have another business that sells software. We do data analytics, but AI recruitment, everything to guarding and cleaning even for our clients, but mainly in and around the call center space.
Okay, thanks. So Joel, let's get into what's currently happening. I mean, we're all sitting at home in lockdown. Most of the people that follow you will actually know that you are very active, in a lot of charity work and feeding schemes that's going around. And something that's recently that you were part of is called the One Cup of Pup initiative that Dave van Hoeselen and Wayne Boardman got underway. And I mean, yeah, it's actually been a hell of a campaign. I mean, I've been following them on Instagram, and geez, it's just taken off like fire, a bushveld fire. And then you got involved a few weeks ago as well. Can you just give us a little bit of background on this initiative and what it entails, and then why did you get involved?
Yeah, so it was really Wayne Boardman who started it, and then Dave van Hoeselen got involved, and then I got involved in the second week, I think. It is a fantastic campaign. It started because Wayne is a big supporter of one of the local communities, and he realized that there were people in there that were hungry, and he wanted to help. His business is in the tourism industry, so it's come to a grinding halt, so he's got plenty of time on his hands. And he decided to go and help, and he couldn't afford massive supplies and all the food, so he said, I can help a little bit. And he said, if I can just give them 1 cup of pup, it's going to stop someone from being hungry. And that's where it came from. I have a charity called the Lumahawk Foundation. We are very educational based. We focus on the educational needs of young, underprivileged children. We at the moment we've had a project going for about 18 months where we test their eyes and we give glasses to those in need so that they can lead and live a normal life, that they can get a full education, that they can play sport, and that they can be normal. And we came to a grinding halt with the lockdown. And I heard about Dave's campaign, and I thought, well, we've got a little bit of time on our hands. I've got a lady who runs our charity. We've got some funds, and I've got hold of him. And I said, how can we help? And he said, well, it's growing. He's got Anthea Knowles involved. We've got all this money coming in, and we're doing this, we're doing that. And I said, what about the children? He said, well, look, there's some kids there. I said, what are you feeding them? So we spoke to a dietitian. We set up special kids packs, and the Lumahawk Foundation now sponsors the kids pack. So the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've been out in the communities. We've been feeding thousands of people, and we've been feeding a whole lot of kids and helping those in need.
Listen, I've seen a lot of the pictures and stuff, and I must say it's not a matter of just showing up and being a face there. It's actually being actively involved. And I mean, some of the pictures, you guys have been working on your passing skills from back in the day. And I mean, I've seen a lot of pictures as well where you guys are properly sweating. You guys are actually, doing the God graft. It's not just a matter of standing there and being a face.
Yeah, so we're moving tons of food, every week. And so I really focused on the Friday, and then we did some stuff on Sunday. Saturday I train and ride a bit longer and try to spend more time with the family. Monday to Thursday I work, so you got to still find time to work. But when we go and do it, we pick up the bags of the big, heavy 30, 40 kilogram bags of pup, and we carry them and we move them, and the 25 kg bags of potatoes, we move them. And so it's been quite hard. We've had what's been really cool in the last few weeks, aside from the loyal guys who are there every single week and those who helped start it and you've been involved from the start, and there's too many to mention. But in the last few weeks, we've had John Smith come and help a little bit. To be quite fair, is a lazy lout and didn't do much. I think his wife worked harder than he did. That's his reputation at the moment. And we had Trevor Nyakani there on Friday, who was lugging and helping, So we all chip in, we all carry, we all do our bits. But great to have, other guys contributing on a basis from time to time too.
Yeah, I was unfortunately I wasn't there on Friday. I would have loved to come, but I couldn't make it. So and I actually heard that both you and John's wife were there. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, how is it for them to actually be, to join you guys in something like this? Because normally you guys are all, doing this on your own.
So actually on Sunday, my wife and my son came with as well, and we went and we went and bought the food and we bagged it, and then we took it to orphanages and an old age home in the south in Turfentine. And my wife and my son were with me, and I think if I think about how privileged we are in our lives, you and I and our families and the communities that have money, irrespective of whether you're black or white or Indian or color, whatever background you come from, if you have financial wealth and you can have a roof over your head and running water and electricity and food on the table, you are blessed. That's the absolute reality. Yeah. And I think to have our wives there, I think our wives understand how privileged we are, but it's not always that case with our children. Our children grow up in gated communities. They go to private schools or semi-private schools. They have everything at their disposal. If all their needs are covered, I think for our kids to be exposed to that is a great lesson about life.
You focus a lot on kids, and it's something I want to actually bring up. I mean, with your 2020 vision campaign that you're doing with Luma Hope, and I know your involvement with Wayne, and Dave now, you specifically wanted to get involved with this, with the children's side of things. Yeah. Why are you so focused on the kids, if I may ask?
So I have. So firstly, Madiba is my great hero, and I was very fortunate to get to know him quite well and spend time with him and go to his house and have lunch with him, and he had this mantra that he impressed upon me to say that the children are the future, and most importantly, the education of the children is the future of our rainbow nation. That if we don't educate our children, we'll have a population of I don't want to say useless people, but uneducated people who cannot perform high-level skilled jobs, or thousands of millions of people who will be living on or below the breadline, and life will be tough, and we will end up having to support those people. And the reality is, I know this is a little harsh to say, but adults who are living on the breadline or below the breadline, we can't help them. I can't help them. But what I can do is try and help the kids of today, the decision makers of tomorrow, the captains of industry of the future, the leaders of the future, the people that will lead our country forward in years to come. Yeah. I think we need to make sure that they receive a proper education, and most importantly, by giving them an education and inspiring them, we give them hope. And if you have hope, you have something to dream towards, you have a goal, and ultimately you will achieve those dreams and those goals. And for me, it's as simple as that.
Yeah, no. So Joel, I mean, at one stage in your life, you were also a kid. You were born in Pietermaritzburg, from a bit of my research that I did, and hopefully it's right.
It's wrong.
So, is it wrong?
Yeah,
I must say, I know there's a bit of Czech blood in you, of all things, which is quite interesting.
There is, yeah. So I was born right here in Johannesburg, believe it or not, and yeah. So Wikipedia's got it all wrong. I don't know who put that in there, but it's all wrong.
And that's why I always say I hope my sources are right, because I know that is one of the dodgiest sites in the world. So we'll have to go reprimand someone there. But okay, fair enough. At some stage in your life, you did end up in Pietermaritzburg, as many would know. I mean, you went to Maritzburg College. But I mean, before that, where did your love for sports start?
So I only went to Maritzburg College in grade 11 and 12, standard 9 and matric, and I was born in Johannesburg. My parents moved to Cape Town when we were very young. I was 4 or 5 years old. So I grew up in Cape Town. I went to a tiny little primary school called Golden Grove. In fact, I started in Fishhook Primary, then I went to Golden Grove. And then I went to Rondebosch Boys High School and then moved to Maritzburg College. So my love for sport started from when we were very young. We grew up in a sporting family. Both my parents were very sporting. They both played Premier League hockey. In fact, my mother played provincial softball, and my dad also was a good rugby player before he switched to hockey. So we grew up on the side of a hockey field as little kids with a sawn-off hockey stick and a hockey ball, and then it was soccer at prep school, and then rugby came in and sort of grade 1, whatever it is, and cricket, and it just became a complete passion and love for sport from as long as I can remember.
So, I mean, is it fair to say that you were a Western Province supporter back in the day?
Define back in the day. I played there.
Well, when you discovered rugby, and when rugby became part of your life, I mean, when rugby becomes part of your life, you've got to support someone. And so I'm just assuming it's Western Province, but as things have gone so far the last few minutes, all my assumptions have been wrong.
Well, it was, but I think your allegiances changed, don't they? So I used to play rugby on Saturday mornings for the school, and then we would, my mates and I, we'd get our parents to drop us at Newlands, and we'd go as little schoolboy season ticket holders. We'd go sit on the kids' benches there, and if it was a club day and there were 3 or 4 club games, we'd watch the club rugby. If Western Province were playing, we'd watch Western Province. But we would go down there every Saturday afternoon, come rain, hail, or snow, and support the local teams. And obviously Western Province was our team, and we had a great side in those late 70s, early 80s, and it was a strong side. And in fact, there were some great tours. We were blessed with the British and Irish Lions came in 1980. I played 2 curtain raises to that tour as a 12-year-old. So we grew up watching the game, going to the stadium, enjoying the experience, not just watching it on telly as we do nowadays. Yeah.
And any players that stood out for you back in the day? I mean, when in those times when you were a lighty supporting Western Province, and whoever. I mean, was there a childhood hero? I mean, I've heard stories.
You've heard stories.
I've heard stories, and like I said, my assumptions have been horribly wrong so far. But let's see, maybe I'm right.
So when I was I reckon I must have been about 11 or maybe 12 years old. We watched in fact, maybe even a little younger, if I think back now. I would have been younger. I'd have been about 9 or 10. We watched images of the All Blacks playing, and they had a winger, Brian Williams.
Okay.
Jeez, and he was unbelievable. He was sensational. So from having watched him, I just wanted to play wing. And my first 3 games, I played wing. And so he was like the first hero that I really aspired to. It didn't take me long to work out that on the wing you never get the ball, and it's the worst position in the world. And
Yes.
So I moved infield, and at primary school I played fly-off and centre, and in fact I played Western Province primary schools as a centre, but played for the school I played fly-off, and then I got to high school and I played centre right until halfway through standard 9, until the coach David Dell moved me to fly-off, and then my career at fly-off began. But so my heroes in those early days, aside from Brian Williams, it then became some of those Western Province players. Mornay du Plessis for me was the ultimate, this wonderful gentleman, tall and lanky, skillful. Even though he was a number 8, he was certainly the epitome. And then as I grew, it became Donnie Gerber, the running skills, his ability. And then as a fly-off, when I switched to fly-off, I'm loath to say it, but it was Niles Puerto, because he just controlled things so magnificently. And I'd never tell him if he was sitting here, but he was definitely my hero when I was growing up.
Well, that's the rumor that I heard. It was Niles Puerto, so I mean, which was a childhood hero of mine as well. And I mean, today you guys are working together, so I mean, it must have been quite something when by that time you were probably not. He wasn't a hero anymore, but it must have been great to know you sitting next to Niles and talking rugby.
Yeah, so I was lucky, when I finished school, I went straight to the Air Force, and then I went to varsity afterwards, and I played in Pretoria for 2 years, and I played Northerns under 20, and I played in the Northerns B side. When the under 20s weren't playing, I got picked straight up as a youngster into the B side, and then Niles got knocked out by that Free State number 8, Yanni Else, and I played one game for the Bulls. So I was quite fortunate to play against him in trials, in a couple of those warm-up games, and then to have taken his place once in the team. So I got to know him a little bit, and then obviously I went back to Natal and played against him. And we're not here to tell funny stories, but I'll tell you one little funny story.
Yeah.
One of my first games for Natal was against Northerns, and it was that year I think that we actually won the Currie Cup. And he was trying to clear from his 22. He was trying to kick. And we decided we're going to put lots of pressure on him. And I chased hard and I jumped like that to charge his kick. And I missed him. As I turned like that, I bumped him. And he hooked me on the ear.
Oh, wow.
He hit me with a real cheap shot on my ear. And I turned around and I started chasing him. I had the dukes up and I was going to knock him out. And Uli grabbed me from behind. Uli Schmidt said,
"Oh, wow.
Get back there." And that's about the closest anyone ever got to Niles. So.
Well, I'm glad you touched on it, because I heard a rumor just like 2-3 weeks ago that you actually played for the Bulls, and I was shocked. Honestly, as a Bulls supporter, which you can probably see in the background, I honestly never remembered that, and I had to ask you that. But thanks for confirming it, and I'm sure hopefully anybody that's going to watch this will be as shocked as I was, because I've always thought you were just a banana boy, as they were called, in those days. And then you were part of that first ever team to win the Currie Cup for Natal. What a day that must have been. That was the start of many big things for you. Because you started, if I'm correct, around about 91. That's when you started playing for the Sharks, and things happened. You guys won your Currie Cup, and it wasn't too long after that. But in between playing for the Sharks and becoming Springbok, you briefly had some stints in, I think, with 2 clubs in Italy as well. Was that just like off-season kind of stuff, or how did that come about?
Yeah, so when I finished in the Air Force and I went back to Natal, that was 1988. I spent most of 1988 injured, actually, which was I had a surfing accident over Easter weekend, which was terrible, and missed about 13 weeks. And then 89 was really where I started. 90, we won the Currie Cup against Northern Transvaal at Loftus. And after that final, I went back to Durban, and my girlfriend and I, my wife now, we boarded a flight. I think that night we were part of, or the Monday night, we were part of the ceremony and the the parade through the streets of Durban, and then we went straight to the airport and got on a flight and went to Italy and played a season for a club called L'Aquila, and came home in, I think, like early March for our season year and the varsity year, and then 2 years later went back and played for another club, Sandona de Piave. So I loved the game of rugby. I just wanted to play as much as possible, and I was fortunate enough to have. I always laughed. I said, "Have suitcase, we'll travel." And I had the suitcase, and I had this opportunity to go and travel and live in other parts of the world. When I was younger, I even spent a couple of months playing in France. And it's a great way to not just see the world, but most importantly, to experience other cultures, to meet new people, to grow, to become a better person, and obviously to become a better player.
Joel, you've played 22 notable caps. Hopefully, maybe it was more, because my stats have been horribly wrong today, which is quite embarrassing. But I had a look at some of your games and stuff. I mean, you actually had a pretty stellar career as a Springbok, and I mean, I think it speaks for itself. You know, looking at what you did, and I mean, where you are today, I mean, I'm sure it played a big role. Um, I mean, just some of the things that stood out for me going through, you know, your records and stuff. I mean, your highest points that you scored, and it was a game where you scored 25 points against the Aussies in Bloemfontein of all places. I mean, you scored every single point that day,
Yeah.
which included, I think, a try, one conversion, and 6 penalties. I mean, we all know the most famous of them all, obviously the World Cup final. And I mean, I watched it on Sunday, knowing that I'm going to be speaking to you. I thought, shucks, man, let's watch this game. And you know what? It was the first time in 25 years that I actually watched the game from the start right to the end. And it was, wow, I'm glad I did it, because it was so, my wife was laughing at me because I was like, what are you guys doing? And it's so funny actually watching a game like that, knowing the result. But there were some interesting things that I actually picked up while I was watching it. First thing that I want to ask you, how was the build up on that day for you, or maybe the few days leading up to that final?
So the build up, and you know, it's quite interesting because it's our 25-year reunion in a month's time, and we probably won't be able to gather. We won't be able to. So we've got a big charity initiative that we're about to launch, and it's actually very cool. It's a World Cup winners mosque, and it'll have all 3 World Cups on it. We're collaborating with the 2007 team and with Siya Kolisi and the 2019 squad. We've got World Rugby support and obviously Springbok Rugby support, and every cent we raise will go to charity from you know, this great campaign. But in this whole charity and this whole drive, we've been chatting a little bit about the build up to that game and telling the stories behind the scenes. And SuperSport are going to do a documentary about the build up and what happened behind the scenes.
Awesome!
It was an amazing week because we went to Sun City. There was a dinner in Sun City, but we got away and we trained up there. And the week was quite stressful, to be honest, because after the semi-final in Durban in the rain, SAA had held the flight back for us. We flew back to Joburg that night to get back to altitude and not spend time at sea level. And we got in late. The guys who lived in Joburg, Pretoria were allowed to go home. Us guys who didn't live in Joburg or Pretoria, we had to stay in the hotel. So we watched the All Blacks smash England, and it was quite depressing. You know, having watched that, you know, it was quite demoralizing. And on the back of that, Kitch then came up with a potential plan B. You know, so when we got to Sun City, we practiced plan B. And Francois and I were laughing about this last week, about how really bad we were at plan B. How we were trying to play this new game and we were useless. And eventually Francois went to Kitch and said, "No, coach, we can't. We've got to stick to our game plan." And we stuck to our game plan, and we worked at it and we perfected it. We obviously adjusted our defense a little bit to compensate the Jonah Lomu ability and impact. And then we just made sure whatever we did perfectly, and we made sure we had great spirit and great commitment, and we solidified the defensive plan, and we made sure we did our extra fitness in the week. But the build-up was, you know, it was the build-up to a World Cup final. Probably on the day was more significant than anything else. We used to wake up quite early, and we used to all go for every game. We'd wake up a number of hours before the game. So, you know, it was a 3:00 kickoff, I think. So we were up at 7. We were down in the foyer at 7:15. We went for a little run around Sandton, did a lot of stretching, just started loosening up, getting focused, back to the hotel for breakfast. And then we had quite a few guys come and have breakfast with us. You know, some of the other sporting icons from our country, Ernie Els, I think Alan Donald and Fonny de Villiers were there, but people that, you know, could speak from a position of having achieved greatness, and who could inspire us. Not that we needed any more inspiration to play in a World Cup final. The morning was slow and full of nerves, and you know, when we got to the ground, I think it was really when the nerves start to settle a little bit, because you then become part of the throes of the action. And then there were little things that happened. We never saw the Boeing go over. We didn't even know about it till my dad was talking about it after the game, and we were going, "What Boeing? You know, did it say good luck underneath? No way, we couldn't believe that. You know, it just we didn't see all that. But what we did have, we had Madiba come into the change room, but 90 minutes before kickoff, we were still strapping up and getting ready to start the warm up, and he came in and had a word with us. And as I've said, you know, it wasn't good luck, guys. It was it was a deep word. It was a well researched word, and it had great meaning to all of us. And and that, I think, was the little bit of touch of the Madiba magic that and you don't need to be inspired to go and play in a World Cup final. You need a bit of luck. And if I look back on all the times Madiba touched sportsmen or women in our history, and those sportsmen and women, whether in teams or individuals, went on to achieve greatness. There's no doubt that the Madiba magic rubs off, or used to rub off, while he was still alive. And the great man's magic managed to inspire many of us to achieve some greatness. And I think it was probably the same on that day.
Oh no, most indeed. I mean, geez. I mean, there were some interesting moments in the game. One which I actually noticed on Sunday when I watched it. Probably the best view of was the rumored Ruben Kruger try. Was it a try or not?
Oh yeah, he definitely scored. Yeah, he was over the line.
Sunday,
he was over the line.
Right behind him, basically. Sorry to interrupt you.
No. It's I suppose that's the nature of these online interviews, meetings. We have the odd interruption. No, I was right behind him. No one got underneath him. He grounded the ball, and unfortunately, the rules or the laws of the game, I should say, because it's not rules, they are laws, are quite clear, and we're always clear. If you don't see it and you're not sure, you can't give it. And Ed Morrison got there a fraction late, didn't see it. Didn't think that Ruben had managed to ground it and didn't give it. But there's no doubt in my mind that Ben had grounded the ball, and that would have been a 7-pointer.
Oh yeah, no, most definitely.
But then the downside, if it had been a 7-pointer, I probably wouldn't have kicked a drop goal to win it, and I wouldn't be on the show right now.
It's actually so. I mean, when I was watching this, and I was thinking like this as well. It's like, I wonder what the mental attitude would have been, from both teams had that actually been a 7-point, had it been given. I mean, it's just interesting how our life just plays out in that kind of way. I mean, at the end of the day, for those that don't know, I mean, you scored all 15 points. Something else that happened, and I mean, we all know 2019, last year, Makazola Mapimpi became the first South African to score a World Cup final try. It took us how many World Cups for someone to score? Well, 3 World Cup finals before a South African could actually score try. But something that I did notice as well was you could have been that guy that scored the first World Cup try for South Africa in the final. I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but there was a break.
I remember clearly.
I mean, you should remember. It was you. James Small passing the ball, and then suddenly it was called a forward pass. I mean, I was looking at this and I was horrified, honestly. On Sunday, to see that call being called a forward pass, I don't know.
So look, I'm not. I think it may have been forward, but what horrified me more was that James slowed down so much that I overtook him.
Well, I'd
like to say that was the only time I was ever faster than James.
Because I mean, unfortunately, I mean it all stopped. But from what I could see, it looked like there was nobody in front of you.
No, so I think what probably would have happened, because I've thought about it and watched it, I think the timing, when he passed it to me, I think ultimately I would have headed infield. I would have been caught and given it back to him. I think he would have scored the try. But you did right. We should definitely have scored there.
Yeah, that was very unfortunately. And then I want to ask you, obviously, unfortunately, I didn't took the time down, but I mean, you got that famous drop goal that everybody knows of today. 7 minutes to go. But then we actually got another penalty. Not the most difficult in the world, to be quite honest, for your standards. I'm sure you.
Yeah, I was hoping you wouldn't bring that up, eh?
I had to bring it up. I mean, the only reason I'm bringing it up is purely because I wanted to know what went through your mind as that thing went past. the right upright, it just went past.
So I mean, actually, I was cross with myself for missing to start with.
Yeah.
Because you're right, it wasn't a hard kick, and I mean, like I was tired, and it was a tired effort, and it wasn't a good kick. It was a very average kick, and I was hacked off with myself for missing it, But as soon as it went past, I actually thought to myself, okay, it's not the end of the world, because they're going to kick out to us down here instead of in our territory.
Yes.
And if we'd gone back and tried to catch it inside our 22 and kick deep, they would have had they would have started with the ball. We would have kicked it long or out. They would have started with the ball around the halfway line, maybe in our half, and they would have had the chance in the last minute to go and score a 7-point and win it still.
Yeah.
But all that happened is they kicked out the 22, kicked the ball back to us, and we carried on attacking. And so as soon as it missed, you can see on the video, I admonished myself, and then the penny drops that, okay, we're still down here, and I was straight back in the game. So at the end of the day, it was it was a weak kick, but the end result was when the final whistle went, we were on attack 5 meters from their line because we'd started with the ball again instead of them starting with the ball.
Yeah, that's right. I must say, I think you guys were by far the stronger team in that last, I think, especially in that second half of extra time. It was just amazing the power that you guys, the attack and everything. It was really, really good. It's like everything just started clicking but it's a pity there was no try scored. But at the end of the day, as you say, won the game and then the celebrations start. Any story you can share with us from your side? I mean, I had Kobus Visa on a few weeks ago, and he told us an interesting story where he went walking down Jan Smuts Avenue there in Hyde Park with people just going on and on in the early hours of the morning. Any story that stood out for you after the game from a celebration point of view?
Yeah, so we obviously had the World Cup dinner out at Gallagher Estate.
Yeah.
And we were with our wives and girlfriends on the buses, and we were coming back from that in 2 buses. And we were coming up Rivonia Road towards Santon. And we looked up, and there was the Rattlesnake Diner. I don't know if you remember the Rattlesnake Diner. It was this...
I've heard of it.
It was like a pub, bar, club. It was quite vibey. It was quite festive. And I said to Gary Pagel, who's him and his wife we're big mates with them, my wife and I, and said to him, Pags, we surely we can't go back to the hotel now. Why don't we go to the diner? He said, come on, man, let's go to the diner. So we ran to the front of the bus, stopped the bus. Francois Pinot said to us, where are you going? We said, we're going to the Rattlesnake Diner. He said he's coming too.
Oh,
so
wow.
Him and his wife Noreen and Gary and Anna and Karen and myself, we hopped off the bus and we went into the Rattlesnake Diner. It was terrible. It was so packed and so full. We went up Springbok blazers with our kit bags. It was so we decided, no, this is a really bad idea. And we walked back out, and in those days there was no Uber, no taxis, no way of getting back to Santon. We had to hitchhike back to the hotel. It's terrible.
Oh, wow.
So and then my brother got married the next morning in Durban. So we went back to the hotel. We had sat in the bar till all hours. Then my wife said to me, listen, we need to go pack. We're on an early flight. And then we rushed to the airport and went to Durban and celebrated at the wedding. And then that evening flew back to Cape Town. And I used to own a pub in Cape Town called the Green Man. And we went to open the pub on Sunday night, and we had a hell of a party there. Hadn't slept for 2 days. Crashed late on Sunday night, and I think slept until Tuesday.
Yes, and then it all started again with the street parade and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Just tell me quickly. I mean, we're almost done here. The movie Invictus came out. Did you get to meet Scott Eastwood that played you in the movie?
So I got to spend a fair bit of time with Scott Eastwood. I got to meet Matt Damon and Morgan Freeman and Clint Eastwood, and in fact we had a little dinner. Nearly all of the players were at the dinner. We had dinner in Santon with the members of the cast and the producers, the executive producers of the movie, and it was amazing. And obviously I went on the field and joined them on set a couple of times. and spent a bit of time chatting to Morgan Freeman and to Matt Damon and to Scott, obviously. It was sensational, wonderful people and really down to earth. And I think at the time Clint Eastwood was maybe in his mid-70s already, and he was late. He was late for dinner because he'd been to gym.
Did you have to give Scott any? Did you have to show him how to do a drop goal?
Yeah, so we spoke about it, and we spoke a lot about it, but I can't claim that I helped coach him on the drop because in the movie it looks horrendous, and there's no doubt that ball didn't go anywhere near the poles.
Oh, well, they should have used you as an extra and just get the shot from behind or something. I'm sure it would have worked. But yeah, hey, Joel. Listen, I want to thank you for your time. I really, really appreciate it. I know you're a busy man these days, even though we're all in lockdown. But I mean, the time spent with you has been awesome. And I mean, firstly, thank you for the work that you do along with Dave and Wayne and John and Trevor, and as well, I mean, I know you've been hooking up with the guys from the SA, Rugby Legends. All the work that all of you guys have been doing, Sia and them down in the Cape. I think it's really, really awesome. And I see, SA Rugby today launched a stunning campaign as well, where they're going to be also getting involved, trying to, help people and families that are in need. And I want to just say thank you and keep on doing what you're doing. And I mean, hopefully all the charities and stuff that you do work with, may it go from strength to strength and you get to do what you aspire to do with them. I mean, it's really, really nice that guys like you can come to the party and help people that are in need. And hopefully somewhere along the line, I might be able to join you guys and hopefully carry a bag or two of milli meal. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll put one on each shoulder and make you look good for the cameras like I did for Trevor.
Yeah. I'll do that definitely. I won't look as lazy as John as you were.
So thank you. That's very kind of you. And from our side, we are able to help a little bit, and we're blessed that we can take the time out to go and try and make a difference and help those in need. And I think if we consider how many children in our country, how many people in our country are going hungry at the moment, or who will go hungry in the next few months, it's the least we can do. And hopefully this lockdown will end as quickly as possible, and we'll kickstart the economy, and we'll kickstart industry, and people will go back to work, and we'll create more employment, and we won't have these issues going forward. But it's going to take some time. So, the last thing I would say is to everyone out there who's feeling a little frustrated, stay safe, stay positive, most importantly, and come out a better person.
Thank you so much, Joel. Thank you once again for your time, and keep safe, and your family and everybody around you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.